Hello.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Nervous.
It's okay. And what's your name, please?
My name is Michael Ketterer.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from East Tennessee, but right now I live in Orange County.
And tell me a bit about you. What do you do for a living?
I'm a pediatric mental health nurse.
Okay. And what are you going to be doing for us? Are you a singer?
Yes, sir.
When Michael Ketterer walked onto the America's Got Talent stage in 2018, Simon Cowell had no idea he was about to witness something that would bring him to tears and change one man's life forever. But what happened after Michael's incredible journey on the show shocked the world and threatened to destroy everything he had built. This is the tragic and complicated story of a man who proved that sometimes the greatest triumphs and deepest failures walk hand in hand. This 41-year-old pediatric mental health nurse and father of 6 stood before the judges with an undeniable force radiating from his presence, a magnetic energy that comes only from someone who has lived through real pain, real struggle, and real redemption. He faced criticism, doubt, and a scandal that would rock his reputation to its core. From the highest highs of receiving Simon Cowell's golden buzzer to the devastating lows of a domestic violence arrest, Michael's journey represents one of the most emotionally complex stories in America's Got Talent history. Join us as we tell you what really happened to Michael Ketterer from America's Got Talent. The atmosphere in the Dolby Theater was electric as Michael Ketterer walked onto the stage, his hands visibly shaking, his voice trembling as he introduced himself to the 4 judges. Simon Cowell sat with his usual skeptical expression, arms crossed, ready to be underwhelmed. Howie Mandel, Mel B, and Heidi Klum waited expectantly. This pediatric mental health nurse from Knoxville, Tennessee, had brought his entire family, 6 children and his high school sweetheart wife Ivy, all sitting nervously in the audience, hoping and praying this moment would change their lives. "What's the dream?" Simon asked, his British accent cutting through the tension. Michael's answer was simple but profound. He wanted to show his children, 5 of whom were adopted from foster care, that dreams don't have an expiration date. When you're surviving, you can't dream, Michael explained, his eyes welling with emotion. Those words hung in the air like a prophecy, foreshadowing both the triumph and tragedy that would follow. Then Michael opened his mouth to sing the Bee Gees' "To Love Somebody," and everything changed. His voice, raw and soulful, filled every corner of that massive theater with an emotion so pure, so authentic, that grown adults in the audience began wiping tears from their eyes. He wasn't just singing a song, he was pouring out his entire heart, dedicating every note to the 6 children watching from the audience, the 5 boys he and Ivy had rescued from impossible circumstances and given a family. As Michael sang about loving somebody the way he loves his family, the camera panned to his children, their faces beaming with pride, and then to the judges. Mel B's hand covered her mouth. Heidi Klum's eyes glistened with tears. Howie Mandel sat completely still, transfixed. And Simon Cowell, the man known for being impossible to impress, the judge who had seen everything and been moved by nothing, had tears streaming down his face. The moment Michael's final note faded, all 4 judges leaped to their feet in a thunderous standing ovation. The audience erupted in applause that seemed to shake the very foundation of the building. But Simon wasn't done. He stood there, visibly fighting to compose himself, struggling to find words adequate to describe what he had just witnessed. "I have to tell you something," Simon finally managed, his voice cracking with emotion. "That was one of the most amazing things I have ever seen. Your voice is spectacular, but more than that, you are real." Then Simon did something he rarely does. His hand moved toward the golden buzzer, and time seemed to stop. "I'm going to do this," he said, and slammed his palm down on the button. Golden confetti exploded across the stage as Michael collapsed to his knees, overcome, disbelieving, sobbing. His children rushed the stage, wrapping their father in hugs as Howie Mandel joined them, the whole scene transforming into a moment of pure, unfiltered joy. The golden buzzer meant Michael would skip the judge cuts entirely and advance straight to the live shows, a privilege reserved for the most exceptional talents. Within hours, Michael's audition video had gone viral, accumulating millions of views across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Comments poured in from viewers who had never cried watching a talent show before. "This man deserves to win," one viewer wrote. "I've watched this 10 times, and I sob every single time," another declared. Entertainment Tonight rushed to Michael's Orange County, California home for an exclusive interview, dubbing him like a real-life Jack Pearson, comparing him to the beloved fictional father from the hit show This Is Us. But the journey was far from over. And what America's Got Talent didn't tell you was the incredible backstory that made Michael's presence on that stage even more remarkable. Growing up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, Michael lost his father when he was only 6 years old, leaving him to navigate childhood and adolescence without a consistent male role model. He grew up singing in church, his voice becoming his escape, his sanctuary, his way of connecting with something bigger than himself. When he met Ivy at age 16 while she was working at Baskin-Robbins, and he became her trainer, neither of them could have imagined the extraordinary journey they would embark on together. They married young, high school sweethearts determined to build a life together. When Ivy became pregnant with their daughter Sophie, Michael felt completely unprepared for fatherhood, haunted by the absence of his own father, terrified he wouldn't know how to be the dad his child deserved. Then, during Sophie's birth, everything nearly ended before it could begin. Ivy suffered life-threatening complications, and doctors told them both mother and baby might not survive. When they did, when both Ivy and baby Sophie pulled through, doctors delivered another devastating blow. Ivy could not safely have any more children. The physical risks were simply too great. For years, they lived as a family of 3. Michael working as a pediatric mental health nurse at CHOC Children's Hospital, witnessing daily the trauma that children endured, the abuse, the neglect, the desperate need for loving homes. Then when Sophie was 6 years old, she began having repetitive dreams about 3 boys in danger, 3 brothers who needed to be saved. She begged her parents to adopt them, to bring them home, to give them the family they desperately needed. Michael and Ivy weren't considering adoption, had never seriously discussed it. But something about Sophie's dreams, her persistent conviction, felt like more than coincidence. In 2010, they were approved as foster parents in Tennessee with the intention to adopt. Soon after, 3 brothers, Jared, Chase, and Jariah, entered their lives. These boys had been living in an abandoned trailer surrounded by meth labs, surviving in conditions no child should ever experience. The Ketterer family welcomed them with open arms, giving them safety, stability, and unconditional love. Then came Rodrigo, called Roddy by the family, a baby who had been shaken and thrown against a wall by his caregiver, leaving him blind, mute, and diagnosed with abuse-induced cerebral palsy. Michael spent countless hours communicating with Roddy through music, singing to him, letting the rhythm and melody speak when words could not. Finally, after Ivy had another dream, they adopted Sean. Completing their family of 8. Michael had put his musical dreams on hold, dedicating himself entirely to his work at the hospital and raising his 6 children. He served as a worship leader at his church on weekends, his powerful voice lifting congregations. But the dream of a professional music career seemed like something from another lifetime, something he had sacrificed willingly for something far more important. But his children, watching their father sing every Sunday, began urging him to pursue that dream. "You taught us we can do anything," they told him. "Now prove it to yourself." The pressure on Michael as he advanced to the live shows was immense. Critics questioned whether a worship leader and pediatric nurse could truly compete against professional singers, seasoned performers who had been chasing the spotlight their entire lives. Online comments speculated that his golden buzzer was more about his story than his talent, that America's sympathy for his adopted children was clouding their judgment. The phrase "he's going to get destroyed" in the live shows appeared repeatedly on social media. But Michael channeled every doubt, every criticism, every ounce of skepticism into fuel for his performances. For the quarterfinals, Michael took the stage and performed James Bezos, a song about enduring love and unbreakable bonds. His voice soared through the theater, every note infused with the love he felt for his wife, his children, his family. Once again, all 4 judges rose to their feet in a standing ovation. Howie Mandel praised his authenticity. Mel B called him inspirational. Heidi Klum declared him a frontrunner, and Simon Cowell predicted he would make the finals. America agreed, voting him through to the semifinals with overwhelming support. It was during the semifinals that Michael truly silenced his critics with a performance that would be remembered as one of the season's most powerful moments. He chose Miley Cyrus's When I Look at You, transforming the pop ballad into a gospel-infused declaration of love and faith. As his voice crescendoed on the final chorus, the entire theater seemed to hold its breath, then released it in a collective gasp of awe. Standing ovations came instantly from all four judges, and the social media explosion was immediate. Twitter lit up with predictions that Michael would win the entire competition. Instagram comments flooded in declaring it the best performance of the season. YouTube views skyrocketed into the millions. Simon Cowell, so moved by Michael's semifinal performance, made an extraordinary gesture. During the live broadcast, he called out to country music superstar Garth Brooks, asking if he would write a song specifically for Michael to perform if he made it to the finals. The request was audacious, unprecedented, but Simon believed in Michael that deeply. Days later, Garth Brooks responded via Facebook Live, announcing he had written a song called The Courage to Love specifically for Michael Ketterer. Brooks invited Michael to perform it not just on AGT, but afterward at his sold-out concert at Notre Dame Stadium in front of 85,000 fans. Michael was in disbelief, literally speechless, as Brooks extended the invitation. This was beyond anything he had ever dreamed possible. The finals arrived on September 19, 2018, and Michael stepped onto that stage one final time. The weight of his journey, his family's hopes, and the nation's expectations resting on his shoulders. He performed Garth Brooks' original song, The Courage to Love, a stripped-down, emotionally raw ballad about the bravery it takes to open your heart, to love unconditionally, to choose family over fear. Then, for his second performance, he sang Ain't No Mountain High Enough, his voice powerful and commanding, proving he could handle any genre, any style, any challenge. When the results were announced, Michael Ketterer finished in 5th place overall, behind winner Shin Lim, dance group Zerkero, violinist Brian King Joseph, and comedian Samuel J. Comroe. 5th place was still an incredible achievement, and Michael left the show with his head held high, his family surrounding him, Garth Brooks' invitation still standing, his future looking brighter than ever. But then, just one day after the finale aired, everything came crashing down in the most devastating way imaginable. On September 20th, 2018, Michael Ketterer was arrested by the Los Angeles Police Department for felony domestic violence. According to police reports, officers responded to a domestic dispute call at a hotel in Hollywood where Michael and Ivy were staying. When police arrived, they noticed a visible red mark on Ivy's body and arrested Michael on the spot. He was booked at the Hollywood substation and held on $50,000 bail. Released the following Friday after posting bond. The news exploded across every media outlet. TMZ broke the story first, followed by Entertainment Tonight, Deadline, and countless others. The man America had fallen in love with, the devoted father who sang about unconditional love, the pediatric nurse who dedicated his life to helping traumatized children, had allegedly committed an act of violence against his own wife. The contrast between his public image and the arrest was jarring, shocking, impossible to reconcile. Michael told TMZ it was all a misunderstanding, that the argument had escalated, but that Ivy didn't want to press charges. The Los Angeles City Attorney's Office reviewed the evidence and made a decision that reflected the complexity of the situation. They declined to file criminal charges, instead opting for a city attorney hearing, an alternative to prosecution typically used for low-level offenses. Michael attended counseling on domestic violence and violence prevention and received stern warnings about any future violations. Legally, he avoided conviction, but the damage to his reputation was catastrophic. Garth Brooks, who had written a song for Michael and invited him to perform at Notre Dame, faced an impossible decision. During his Facebook Live show Inside Studio G, Brooks addressed the situation directly. "I think we were all raised this way," Brooks said solemnly. "You can't just turn your back on things. You have to address them. I called Michael this weekend. We talked. We decided it was better that he not appear at Notre Dame and not perform there. The invitation was rescinded. The opportunity of a lifetime vanished. The song would go into Brooks' catalog, but Michael would never perform it at that historic stadium. The arrest happened at perhaps the worst possible moment, right when Michael's career was poised to explode, right when doors were opening that had been closed his entire life. Record label interest evaporated, concert opportunities disappeared, and the wholesome family man image that had endeared him to millions was irreparably tarnished. Saturday Night Live even did a parody skit of his audition in November 2018, adding insult to injury during an already devastating period. Since the arrest and the collapse of his post-AGT opportunities, Michael has largely disappeared from the public spotlight. According to his family website and social media, he continues to work as a pediatric mental health nurse at CHOC Children's Hospital in Orange County, California, the same job he held before AGT. He helped open Orange County's first inpatient facility for children as young as 3 years old. Continuing his mission to help traumatized youth find healing, Michael remains married to Ivy, and they continue raising their 6 children together. His Instagram account, under the handle at Ketterer Music, has grown to over 84,000 followers, where he shares glimpses of family life, photos with his children, and occasional inspirational messages. He describes himself simply as a dad of 6 kids, 5 adopted wild boys, with no mention of AGT or his singing career. Musically, Michael has not released any solo material to streaming platforms since finishing 5th on America's Got Talent. Instead, he occasionally appears performing with Influence Music, a worship collective he was part of before AGT, contributing vocals to songs on their YouTube channel and albums. His most well-known song, Spirit Lead Me, continues to circulate in Christian worship communities. But there have been no major tours, no record deals, no return to the mainstream spotlight that seemed so certain in September 2018. The Ketterer family reportedly still lives in the Orange County area, balancing Michael's nursing career with family responsibilities. According to sources, Michael focuses his energy on being present for his children, especially Roddy, whose cerebral palsy requires ongoing care and attention. The family continues their advocacy for foster care and adoption, using their platform to encourage others to consider giving children in the system a loving home. Michael's net worth is estimated at around $400,000, accumulated through his nursing career, music contributions, and whatever earnings came from his AGT appearance. There's no indication of lavish lifestyle changes or major financial windfalls. He appears to have returned to the life he lived before AGT, working at the hospital, leading worship at church, raising his children, living quietly away from cameras and controversy. His message to aspiring performers, shared in interviews before the arrest, remains relevant. Just be you, both on and off stage, he said. This show is about talent as much as it is about story. And if you want your story told properly, you have to be yourself. The tragic irony is that Michael's complete story, including his failures and mistakes, has now been told, and it's far more complicated than anyone expected. Michael Ketterer's journey reminds us that talent, even extraordinary talent, is never enough on its own. That public triumph can coexist with private struggle, that the same person who performs acts of incredible selflessness, adopting 5 children from impossible circumstances, can also make devastating mistakes that hurt the people they love most. His story isn't the fairy tale ending AGT seemed to promise, but it's achingly, painfully human. What do you think about Michael Ketterer's complicated journey? Let us know in the comments below. Which talent show contestant should we cover next? Drop your suggestions in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. As for Michael Ketterer, his story serves as a reminder that redemption is possible, that second chances matter, and that sometimes the most important performances happen not on stage, but in the daily work of becoming better, doing better, and loving better.